Hello and welcome to this video. We're going to learn how to write structured query language scripts in order to create, retrieve, update, and delete records from a MySQL table. So this is the interface here that I've made for this tutorial. As you can see, we have a title, Cafe Fish Employee Table, and then a tree view widget, and then the 4 buttons along the bottom indicating the particular process tied to it, to the button itself. As you can see, this tree view widget matches the table seen in the workbench. And so the tree view widget will update whenever the table updates, but I'm not going over how to create a tree view widget. That will be for another video. In this video, we're going to learn how to create, retrieve, update, and delete records, starting with create. So an employee can be created in the employee table, a record even. The user can type in into these entry boxes here, and that will provide the information to go into the record. Note that there is no employee ID field here, because it is best to minimize the user's involvement with IDs as much as possible. Because it can be very confusing to the user. So in this tutorial, we're going to go and randomly generate the IDs for the employees. So in order to create a record, we're going to need to go over a couple of things. The first being, how does Python and MySQL interact? Well, they interact via a cursor object, which is defined here. My cursor equals my database dot cursor, or where MyDB is the name of your database. So once you've defined that, the first thing you want to do is go to the right. So once you've defined the cursor, you're able to do myCursor.execute. Now this takes an SQL script. It also takes a tuple of the variables to go into that SQL statement. So first, we need to write an SQL statement for creating a record in the table, in the employee table. So first things first, we're going to need to do that. So we're going to define this as my insert SQL, and we're going to put 3 speech marks. And then we're going to type in our first bit of SQL, insert into, and then we're going to put the table name, which is going to be employee, and then followed by the field names. Now, as you can see, there are 6 field names: employee ID, first name, second name, gender, job type, and hourly wage. So we're going to put those in now in parentheses surrounding the list of field names. So employee ID, first name, second name, gender, job type, and then finally hourly wage. So that's that done. Once you've done that, you need to put values, which is going to contain the values that we're going to insert. But because we're using Python, we have to put in these wildcard variables, or wildcard characters, I should say. So these wildcard characters are denoted by %s's, and these will be replaced by the data we put into the tuple. So the Tkinter string variables that we have defined for our entry fields here are first name, second name, gender, wage, and job. So we go back up to our create function. We are going to pass in the insert SQL, which is that there, and then we're going to make a tuple, and we're going to put in employee ID, first name dot set, because dot get, because this is a first name is a Tkinter string variable, and then this will repeat with the second name dot get, and then gender dot get, job dot get, and finally wage dot get. Okay, so that's the data in there, and as you can see, employee ID is flagged because it's not been defined. So employee ID equals random.random because we're randomly generating a ID, and we're going to set it between 1 and 5,000, and obviously there won't be 5,000 people working at the restaurant, but it's the higher the number, the less likely that the same ID is going to be generated. For the same ID is going to be generated twice and cause issues because the primary key would then be no longer being unique. So the last thing we have to do, and this is important, this is key, very important command, is we're going to have to put in mydb.commit, or whatever your database object is called. MyDB, in my case it's MyDB, so mydb.commit. This commits the change to the table to the MySQL server, so it won't get automatically rolled back. If you forget mydb.commit, then you will find that your change made will not be reflected in the actual table, and when you go to reset your system, it will no longer be there. So there's three main components: your SQL statement, your execute statement, and then finally your commit statement. Ignore this tree view update. As I said before, I'm not explaining that. That's for another video, but that command just updates the tree view so it reflects the table. So let's run this now. And we're going to create a new employee. We're going to call him Harry. The second name is going to be Wilson. He's going to be male. He's going to be working the registers, and he's going to earn £6.15. We're going to click create, and hopefully go back now. As you can see, Harry Wilson is in our tree view widget, and we're just going to check here that the record has been added. Now, another thing to bear in mind is that if we run this select statement here, you see the record appears. Sometimes if the record doesn't appear, you may have to refresh your schema, which can be done by just going to schema and then clicking this refresh button. That just refreshes the data. Sometimes the record does appear, sometimes it doesn't. So if it doesn't appear, don't panic. Just refresh the schema, and it should be there. So as you can see, he's got an employee ID of 2058. First name Harry, second name Wilson, male. The job type is he's working the register, and it's £6.15 per hour. So that was how to insert a record into a table. We're going to now look at how to retrieve an employee from a employee table, from employee record from employee table. So this is slightly different, this interface, where we've got an additional field here. It's called search name. Now, we've got our two employees here, Susan Lanning and Harry Wilson. And right now, of course, nothing happens. So we're going to have to write a SQL statement that will retrieve the data. So let's see here. Now that option menu. Sorry, I've closed the program. That option menu is very important because that allows the user to select the employee they want to find without having to input their ID. Okay, so if I just scroll down here to the retrieve section here, and we're just going to have to go and find the option menu data value here. Oh no, it was up here whenever we raised the frame. Sorry, give me a moment here. Yes, retrieve, raise, retrieve, right. So the way this if you want to copy my implementation, the way this option menu works is that it upon pressing the hold on, let me close that. But upon pressing the retrieve button, the SQL statement is ran, selecting the first name and second name from the employee table, and then essentially doing a bit of string manipulation and then feeding it into the option menu to allow the user to select the person, the employee. So our variable that we're using in the option menu is called search term. So that is our search term there. So we're going to put that there. Search term. Now, as you notice, notice that it's both the first name and the second name. So there's a space in between there. So we're going to need to get first name and second name, and then we're going to put that equal. I'm going to do dot split. I'm going to split at the space. Okay, so that should return the first name and the second name. Split at the space, and then we're going to do our our retrieve statement, which is going to be a select statement. Now, we're going to do my cursor.execute at our start, and we're going to write our retrieve SQL. Well, we should just do our select SQL, and that's going to equal I'm going to do select from employee. I think we're going to want to select we don't want the employee ID because that's not displayed to the user, so we're just going to want first name, second name, gender, job type, and then hourly wage. From employee. Now, this is the trick. Where first name equals %s and second name equals %s. So there's a bit of a difference between this statement here, this select statement, and this statement up here. So first difference is this where clause. Well, first statement difference that there's no brackets here. You don't need the brackets there. Second difference is that whenever you've got where you have to put something equal to in an SQL statement when you're writing it in Python, you just simply put it first, the variable equals %s, the wildcard value. So we're going to select the first name, second name, gender, job type, and hourly wage from employee, where the first name and second name match our data. So select SQL, that's our SQL statement that's going to get passed in here, and then our tuple, and then we're going to have our tuple of data to be put into the SQL statement, which is going to be f name, which is first name, and we put s name, which is second name. So that should be good. And then we need the final thing, which would be to set the variables. So as we can see up here, we've got first name. Oh, hold on, I'm a bit ahead of myself. So when you're doing a select statement, you don't need to do mydb.commit, because you're not changing the database you're retrieving. You're not changing the database. You're not changing the table. You're simply retrieving the data from the table. However, you do need to get the results of the statement from the cursor object. So I normally do my result, or results if there's going to be multiple results, but in this statement there should only really be one record returned. I mean, if there's somebody with the same name working, if there's two people with the same name working at the restaurant, then of course there's going to be 2 records, but that's going to be highly unlikely. So we're just going to have to deal with that when it comes. So my result equals my cursor dot fetch. Now, as you can see, idles brung up 4 different options here. Fetch one, fetch all, fetch many, fetch warnings. So with fetch one, you should use fetch one whenever you're only expecting 1 record. That'll only return 1 record. Self-explanatory. Fetch all returns everything from the select statement, every record from the select statement. Fetch many allows you to set a fixed number of number of records to be returned to you. So if you only want 5, if there's multiple, say there's 10 records that fit your select statement and you only want 5 of them, you can just do fetch many brackets 5. But for us, we're going to do fetch 1. So my result equals my cursor dot fetch 1. So let's print my result and see what we get. Run, retrieve, Susan, go. Oh, we get an error. That's not good. String var dot split. Oh yes, of course. Sorry about that. Dot set. I wonder if this will let me. Not dot set dot get. I keep confusing the tkinter string variables with what do you call it? Normal Python string variables. Run that again. Retrieve. Okay, so here we've got our tuple of data we've got back from the SQL, the select statement. Susan, Lenning, female, fry cook, 11. So the last thing we have to do is just set the tkinter variables to the data. So let me see. We've got first name dot set this time, because the dot get method gets whatever's in the entry field, and the dot set sets the actual variable to a set value. So dot set my results square bracket 0, because counting starts at zeros for computers. First name, and of course we're going to do second name dot set my result square bracket 1. And we're just going to work our way through here. The Cafe Fish restaurant slash takeaway is quite good if you're ever around near I am. It's quite tasty. And sorry, we're just going to get wage.set my result square bracket 4. Okay, let me just check that's right. So Susan, yep, 1 2 1 2 3 0 1 2 3 4. Excellent. Okay, so let's just run that. Retrieve Susan Lanning. I'm going to click retrieve now, and boom, we've got our data from our database, our table, sorry. Want to do Harry Wilson, we can do that. So yeah, pretty nifty. Sorry about that, I had to take a little break, and I've just checked the recording time, and well done if you've made it this far. Oh. Yeah, well done if you've made it this far. I'm trying to be as explicit as possible, but of course you can always fast forward the video if I'm going too slow for you. Anyway, we're going to go into and do update now. So here, this option menu will retrieve the data from the database that the user selects, but notice the difference between the retrieve interface is that we can change the data to the we can change the data. I like to refer to updating as editing, more so, but anyway, it's the update command you use to write the SQL. So we better do that now. Update. So first thing we have to do is get the first name and the second name of the user, the person the user selects. So f name, comma s name equals update term dot get, and then we're going to do dot, and I'm going to do split, and we're going to do split by space. So there we go, that's that done. Now we're going to do our update SQL. So update SQL equals triple speech marks. We're going to do update, and then the table name, which is employee, set first name equals %s, comma second name equals %s, comma gender equals %s, comma job equals %s, comma wage equals %s, where first name equals %s and second name equals %s. So there you are. Now we're going to have to do our mycursor.execute. So we're going to do that. I'm going to put update SQL as our SQL statement, and then we're going to pass in our tuple, which will be first name dot get, second name dot get, gender dot get, job dot get, wage dot get, and then first name, well, not first name, f name and s name. So remember that f name and s name are normal Python string variables, whilst first name and second name are Tkinter string variables. And remember that you need to have the same number of data values as there are %s's or wildcard values in your SQL. And then we're going to update tree view. So you need, since you're making a change to the database, you need to the table, you need to do mydb.commit. And now that should run. So if we go and run it now, run. We're going to update. We're going to make Susan, and we're going to give her a raise. We're going to make her £20 per hour, and we're going to update. Oh, unknown column job in field. Oh, sorry, yes, it's .job type. I get confused myself. Sorry, update. Well, let's just update Harry Wilson. Let's say you get a raise to, I don't know, $8.15 an hour. Update wage in field list. Oh yes, because it's hourly wage. Hourly wage. Hourly wage. Harry Wilson. We make that 8. Okay, so I went through. We go back. As you can see, hourly wage is now £8.15. And just double check. Refresh the schema. Refresh. Oh. Hello. Maybe we need to relaunch MySQL Workbench. But hey, you know it works. Yeah, there you go, £8.15. Okay, so that was how to update. So now we're going to swiftly move on to delete. And delete is very simple. Very simple SQL here. And as a result, it's a very simple little interface here where we can delete an employee. So let's actually code that. So delete. Let's see. For delete, you're going to need to write the delete SQL. So let's do that first, get that out of the way. You have to use the SQL phrase delete from, and then the table name, employee, where, you have to specify where first name equals, and we're going to do a wildcard there, and then we're going to do and we're going to do our second name here equals %s. So now f name, s name, again, it's the same thing as we did previously, but we're going to use delete term there because because that's what's tied to that particular option menu, that variable dot split, and we're going to split by the space, and all you have to do is pass in the two variables there, and that SQL, very important SQL phrase there, SQL f name, comma s name. Okay, so that would be that done, and of course, finally, most importantly, mydb.commit will commit that change so that deletion will go through. So let's just run that and see. So delete Harry Wilson. Let's delete him. It's gone through. If we go back, no Harry Wilson. And if we run this now, no Harry Wilson. So that was how to create, retrieve, update, and delete using Python and MySQL. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments, and there will be completed code and a code at the start, so you can follow along. So that's the end of the video. Happy coding. Bye.